G'day fellas, and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do the build order that I've somewhat popularized. You may have seen it originally when I took out Dave with hovercraft over on this little spot here. You may have seen it in another video where I look to push up the middle with a whole bunch of lightning tanks and try and take out my opponent. That's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So this is a 3-lab build order. That's correct. So we open with bots, we go into hovers, and then we finish it up going into T2 vehicles. So without further ado, let's get into it. So starting off, I will also note this is specifically for the geo spot. So this spot here on the south side and this spot here on the north side of Supreme Strait. So let's get into it. So starting off with our commander, we're placing down our metal extractor as far away as we can from the geo. So you can place it top side like that, but the problem is if you do that, it will die in the explosion. So we want to always place this one as far away as we can. And then this one, we're bringing it down to the south side. We're making 3 wind turbines, and then we're going into our third mechs. You can see that I've got this build grid widget. So make sure that if you don't already have it, go and download it. The building grid widget is absolutely amazing. Really helps out with your base building. And I've just made sure that my metal extractor is perfectly in line with everything here so that my early game, it's going to be pretty easy to base build. So now we bring the commander over here, and once again, making sure that you can see the metal extractor sits right on the edge here of this grid. And then we're going to be throwing down our bot lab. So the most important thing here with the bot lab is that we just want to make sure it's within the range of the commander and his build radius. So another widget that I use is the where is it? Build power radius. So that way you can see exactly where it is. And then we're going to throw down wind. Now we're going to be going up to 17 wind turbines. It's important you don't go more than 17 wind turbines because we will be taking geo early, so we don't really need to rely on wind that much. We've also got Lazarus that are going to be a huge part of this build. Now, I've been fortunate in that I've had pretty good wind, which means I can boost out a Lazarus immediately. He's going to come over here and start just taking energy. We always want to go to the closest tree, and he gets equivalent to 3 solar collectors worth of energy straight away in the early game. So we want to try and utilize him to keep our wind turbines coming through, and at the same time boosting out the construction bots whenever we get the chance. And you can see just as we're about to max out, that's when we boost out the construction bot. Construction bot is going to come out immediately and throw down a construction turret. Now, once again, it's within the radius here of the let me get the perimeter camera because it's so small. It's within the radius of the commander. It's also part of this build grid, so that's important to note. He's going to come down here and going to place a second construction turret within range of the first construction turret, just leaving it because you can leave it for about 7 seconds before it will start to reclaim itself, or will start to I don't know what the technical term is, but basically you'll have enough time, and you can see right now the second construction turret or the first one is going to going to build the second one. At the same time, we've thrown down a metal extractor on the south side, and once again making sure we put it in the back corner here as far away as possible as we can from that geo, so that when it explodes it does stay alive. This thing is like a nuclear bomb going off, so we want to make sure that we keep everything alive. So now more Lazarus are coming out. Second one is also going to help out with energy. You can see that we're somewhat stalling here just because we've got quite low wind. I say quite low, 11's not bad. It's definitely pretty decent. And we've started throwing down the geo, so now we're going to get help from the construction turret on the geo. It'll take some time to come out, but once the geo comes up, your energy is just going to be sitting at the top level the whole time. So it's really important that you go into storage early. So now that we've got our third Lazarus out, he's going to be eating up all of these these rocks here that are going to be giving us metal. So sometimes you'll get these rocks, sometimes you won't. But for us, fortunately, this game, we're not playing with anybody else, so we're going to be getting them. And we're going to make sure that we want to throw down our energy storage. It has to finish before our geo, just because we want to try and capture as much of that energy. We really want to avoid stalling. We don't want any excess, or not stalling, rather, we want to avoid any of that excess energy. So now we've got no metal in the bank, and that's where it kind of gets a bit awkward because you're stalling out all your construction. So what you're going to do is use that last Lazarus, that 5th one, and you're also going to be using the commander to reclaim, and then going into a hover lab. Now, it's really important to note that this lab needs to be between both of these 2 construction turrets. And another thing that we've done that I didn't cover is that this Lazarus over here, once we've kind of gotten over our energy problems, even though we're not really over them, we're going to send him out, and he's just going to go and eat all the rocks, every single rock that he can. So now that the commander's put down the hovercraft platform, He's going to go into just throwing down a whole bunch of energy converters, and this construction bot is going to do the same thing. So we've gone 8 over here and then 4 over here. Once the hovercraft platform comes up, we're going into 5 seekers, then into 1 construction hovercraft, and then into 5 more seekers. So the first attack will be 5 seekers, the second attack will be 5 seekers. So that's the aim here. So at this point, everything's going well. Another thing to note is that if you do have a little bit of idle time with your commander before you need to explode, that you can just make a couple more of these energy converters. You're going to have plenty of energy here, and you can see that we're using... we're making more than 800 just because the Lazarus, sometimes these guys do go idle. You can see here, this is part of the issue that I've got at the moment, is my Lazarus don't actually show up as idle. So I run into this problem where I'm not actually doing it. And there we go. I realize and make sure I fix it up. But everything's pretty simple at this point. And we're going to bring our construction bot in to help out with our tier 2. Now, this is very, very carefully positioned here. So we'll just get the perimeter camera to demonstrate. So we want to make sure, and I'll just pause it here, because the T2 lab that we're going to be building, so we're going to be building our advanced vehicle plant, we need to make sure that it is not anywhere near this geo, because we're not going to be building a Prude. We're just going to be going straight into an advanced geothermal, or going into the explosive one, but we're going to make sure that we don't build anything near it. So that's very, very important. So in saying that, we also need to make sure that it is within the radius of these 2 construction turrets. So that really doesn't give us a lot of options. If we take a look here, this is about our best spot. So it's really important that we always aim to get it down in this area here. So let's unpause. And you can see that he automatically comes out and does his thing. So what we're going to be doing is throwing down that building. We want to make sure that it is within the grid. You can see right there. So there we go. And so we maximize our efficiency here. Both of our nanos are going to be collecting. We're going to get our bot over here, and we're also going to start reclaiming our hovercraft platform. So all of our Lazarus are going to come back home, and they're all going to come back out. Now, while we were doing this, I'll pause it once again because our attacks are happening. So normally the way that I do it is I've got control group 5 is my lab. So that's this guy right here. My Lazarus are control group 4. My first group of hovers, these guys are control group 1, and you can see that we've got them on a route. We always want to wait for all 5 of them. Then we're going to bring them in nice and close, and then we're going to send them out like this, just making sure that we hold down right click and give them that nice command. Bring them up towards the enemy base like this, holding down shift, and at the same time holding down shift once again, and you're going to split them up like that. That way your enemy's going to have to chase them as much as they can. At the same time, towards the north, it's now time for our second attack, and we want to make sure that we group them up together, and you want to avoid them running through trees because hovers will run over the top of trees. So I like to go around, because at the end of the day, it's energy that you're losing out. So there's 2, and then just to show exactly what we're going to be doing here. So we once again do another route that comes up, and then we're going straight towards the enemy geo, but we're going to do a nice little loop around the geo just to make sure that we kill it. And then that way, we don't even have to think about those guys for the rest of the game. You know, if they go and they kill the geo, wonderful, mission complete. If they don't, well, mission complete because the enemy had to respond to them anyway. So everything is all sorted from that. So there are 2 big boosts of metal that you need to be very aware of when you're doing this build order. The first one is going to come from your hovercraft platform, because this is a 900 metal construction plant. Compare that to like the bot lab, which is 650. So that's going to be huge. So we want to make sure that we always have space for this. On top of that, you're also going to have the commander. So now that the commander has finished off, so you can see I've added in a couple of little extra energy converters, but I realize at this point, commander needs to go boom. So we're sinking all that metal in, and we're going to bring our Lazarus down here. So we're just going to make sure we're holding down shift, and then that gives us a good idea on the indication. We just want to avoid, I normally go a little bit out from that red ring. I don't actually know where it is, but the single Lazarus is going to come in. That's all we need to be picking up. So single Lazarus comes in, and now this is where I'm going to pause, because I actually played a game and I made a mistake when I was doing this build order. I did it optimally, and you can see our timing's pretty good here, 6 minutes 15. You need to make an assessment at this point right now. Do I help out front? Does front need help? Now, I would recommend always, at the very least, going into 2 Mausers, because this is going to allow you to clear out anything like wardens or oversights. Let me check what they're called. Sorry. Overwatchers. It will help you clear those out, and then that allows your frontliners with their T1 to push into that space, and then that's going to buy you up more space for your power attack, your power spike. So one of the things I would say, though, is if your front is really dying or under pressure, instead of going into those Mausers, look to go into Jaguars instead, because Jaguars are really quick. You're going to be able to catch all the T1s with them, and on top of that, they've got the lightning. So really, really strong unit. So just think about that. But we're gonna go into 2 Mausers. followed by an advanced construction vehicle, and we're not going to make anything after that. It's really important we don't put all of our eggs in different baskets. We want all of our eggs in the same basket when we're playing, we're trying to play as optimally as we can. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means as we get closer towards it. So the first Mausers are going to come out, and these guys, I'm going to be putting these into Control Group 3. So I've got Control Group 1, which were my first hovers, Control Group 2, which were my second hovers over here. For some reason, they're not going, there we go. And then Control Group 3, which are my Mausers, Control Group 4, which are my Reclaim bots, and then Control Group 5 is my Advanced Vehicle Plant. So now that the Advanced Vehicle Plant has completed the Advanced Construction Vehicle, we're going to start working on our Advanced Metal Extractor. We want to make sure it's the one that's in the middle of all of our constructors. And this is why we don't go into anything after the Jaguar, because we want to make sure that we are focusing 100% on getting up our metal first, because the metal is going to be the bottleneck. So once we've got this up, take a look at the difference between this metal income. 2.3 metal for just your basic, and compare that over to the Advanced Metal Extractor, which is going to be pulling in absolutely ridiculous numbers. Let's take a look and see what it's going to be. And it is 4.6, 9.2. There you go. 9.2 versus 2.3. So that is a massive difference. So now what we're doing is we're just going to be laying down the foundations, the blueprint here. So our first one comes in, our basic construction bots and hovers are going to help out. And now coming down to the south here, we tap this one so that our construction turret can also help out over here. That way he's not sitting idle. And you can see that we're doing relatively well at this point, but still we don't want to add in any Jaguars just because they are quite expensive. 330 would be enough, more than enough to stall us at this point, but we're doing relatively well. And now this construction bot or construction vehicle does have quite a lot of build power, so it maths out pretty decently. And just a little bit after the 8-minute mark, we've got all 4 of these advanced metal extractors coming online. Well, it's going to be closer to the 9-minute mark realistically. But now is the time where we can say, okay, I'm going to start making my Jaguars. So our Mausers have been working on the front. They've started to take out those wardens. They've really pushed out the enemy out, or you know, what is that? What are you doing, little crab? Sorry. We've pushed it in the front, and now all of a sudden there's a little bit of an opening, and this is where you got to kind of choose what way you want to go. So there's 2 options. Obviously, you come down the south side, or you go up along the beach. So you have to choose whichever avenue looks like it's going to be the easiest to get through, because what we're going to be doing is an absolute blitz. We're just going to be sending through our Jaguars along that edge of the coastline and looking to try and get into the back line. That's really key here. And everything that we've done has been leading up to this moment. So the reason why, you know, one of the differences between the video that I did with Dave, or not, I shouldn't say with Dave. I mean, I technically I did it with Dave. He didn't consent to it though. Well, at least we'll say that much. But I think that attack hit between about 12 and 13 minutes is when we left the base. Here we're going to be leaving before 10 minutes with the exact same amount of units. So this has been highly optimized in that regard. And we're just focusing all of our build power here. It's important that you don't make more nanos than what you need, or more construction turrets than what you need. 2 is more than enough. You can see we are completely idling out here on everything. We are just maxed out on idling. We can see we're so idle, even our Lazarus is idle because he doesn't tell us that he's idle anymore. I still don't know how to fix that. Hopefully I'll find a fix for it soon. So I think about 10 Jaguars is the correct number to go to. You could go for more, or you could go for less, but I feel like this is the right bang for your buck. It's just enough to overwhelm the T1. They're quick enough to get past anything else, and if you come into range with a comm and get degunned, you're still going to have a few guys left. So that's the way I think about it. So I like to go up to 10. So you can see this one here is going to be our 10th one, and I always like to leave them close to the base. Don't rally them out over here, because you do want to wait for them all to get together and then rally them together, because that's going to allow you, so when you do that, what that's going to do is it allows you to issue the command immediately, rather than having to think, oh, are my Jaguars all on the front line? Yes, they are. Okay, great. Now I can issue the command. So now we bring in the construction vehicle to throw down our advanced geothermal power plant. This is the hazardous version, rather. Gotta be careful with those G's in there. This is where we start to float metal. So at this point, you wonder, what do we do? Well, we can go into the really nice unit. I love this, the council. This is probably one of the best things about going into the vehicles is going into the council. So this is a little bit of extra build power that's mobile, but also gives you a whole bunch of different options through the mid game. And you can look to take advantage of that with things like hounds on the front line. These guys can make hounds. Yeah, I know, it's pretty crazy. They can make, where are they? Hounds. There they are. They can assist with arbalists, and of course they can just assist with your normal build. They can also build construction turrets, which is amazing. But now that comes up, what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that there's nothing in here of value. We want to make sure that absolutely everything, and I'll just pause it because I'm going to draw for you. So you don't want to be building, ideally even this row here, this is going to go if this blows. So you don't want to be building anything at all within that radius. You want to make sure that it is all, that your base is nowhere near this. I kind of feel sorry for this guy over here because, like, realistically, he's going to get hit by the boom, boom, boom. So sorry, mate. But for us, that we can control it. He can't. But essentially, that's it. So what that means is we're going to start reclaiming our construction turret straight away because this is all as good as dead. And we've just got to prep for that. Now, you can go into the Prude if you want. I've been doing that. But I've just been thinking, what's the point in going into a Prude when I can just pay a little bit more, go into the advanced geothermal power plant, have that extra 500 energy, and just make sure that I build my base in a way that isn't going to punish me if I do lose it. So that's the way I think about it. But now you can see on that top side, our Jaguars have come through, always making sure that we go for that big line split. That way we have less risk of being hit by a Commander D-gun. So that's always what we're looking for. And now back behind this, we're just going to be adding in basic energy converters. Now remember, these ones are really good in the early game just because they don't cost any metal. So sorry, they only cost 1 metal is what I should be saying. So you can see right here, 1 metal, 1150 energy, and compare that over to the advanced one, which costs 380. So you're paying 10 metal versus 380. Now, granted, the conversion rate's a little bit better for the advanced energy converter, but I think early game, it's definitely the right call. So now what I'm going to do is now that I've got all of these resources, and you can see I'm really starting to stack it up here, is I'm going to go into Mausers. Now, this is part where I'll pause it because I'll explain. This kind of becomes where you can freestyle, right? You decide how you want to play the game from this point on. This has been the framework that I've given you, the opening where I think a lot of these steps are quite important. Attacking with the 2 separate groups of hovers, coming up the middle with the Mausers to deal with any static defense that your enemy's got, hitting them with the Jaguars. These are all, I would say, key points in this strategy. Now we enter this stage where you decide your pathway. Do you want to go into air? Do you want to go into a huge eco boom? Do you want to just assist the front with some T2 artillery? Do you want to start selling T2 to allies if they haven't already got it? I mean, you probably would have done that earlier by now. And for me, it's a combination of helping the front, but also focusing on my eco. So I've gone into quite a few council here. I've gone into 5. And what I've done is I've utilized my build grid. So I've actually done the math on it, and I'm pretty confident that this is about the best way that you can build the base here. Just simply because if you build the base any further to the right, you are at risk of missile ships. So I actually got missile ships out in here, and I'm like, I did the math. I'm like, where's the best place to build? So the way that I look to build my base in this position is I throw on this line here, is where I put my nanos, and then immediately next to it, I'm going to be putting my APHIS, and then I'm going to be putting my my advanced energy converters coming down next to that like that. But that's essentially it. And then, so we're just going to head into a fusion. Fusions are really good to go for if you're planning on making units. I actually built a Starlight here because I had so much metal. I was fearful of overflow. You can see we've only accessed 1 metal throughout this game. 13.4k energy accessed. But going into fusions are really the correct choice, at least early on, I think. And now just looking to support the front once again with a couple more Mausers. Now, I will say this. To be honest, I feel like vehicles are great in the early stages of the mid-game. But once you start reaching the middle of the mid-game or the late mid-game or the late game, I feel like bots are far superior. There's just so many things about bots that make them really good. I'm still a huge fan of the Sniper. I think this is undisputed king of the mid-game. And because of that, I found having a lot of... I was having a lot of trouble controlling my Mausers, controlling my Starlights, because if you do get in too deep, if your enemy looks to flank you, you will lose everything. Compare that to snipers. I play games with snipers. I'm not even kidding you. I make 40 snipers. I never lose one because I've always got the ability to pull them back. They're able to really... and they just don't do so well with Junos and with tick spam. It's just like... So I think that like an opening like this is definitely strong, but I feel like going into bots here, and you've already got the construction bot, right? So if you wanted to go into advanced bots, it's as simple as building this bad boy, you know, somewhere over here where you've got nanos, and then just reclaiming your advanced vehicle plant. It's super easy to do that. So I think that's probably the best opening. But from here, it's super simple as to how it plays out. So once again, it depends on what your plan is and how you want to play the game out. But I think this is a pretty decent framework. If you've got any questions, please let me know down in the comments. If you've got any feedback, please let me know. And of course, as always, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.